Good evening, everyone. My name is Councillor Tony Cordy. I'd like to welcome you to the Mount Alexander Shire Council meeting of the 17th of August 2021. To start the official proceedings, I'd like to acknowledge that we're meeting on Jara country, of which the members and elders of the Jara community and their forebears have been custodians for many centuries and have performed age-old ceremonies of celebration, initiation and renewal. We acknowledge their living culture and their unique role in the life of this region. Council meetings are audio and video recorded and are made available to the public via electronic media, including YouTube. We have 4 councillors in the chamber, and we have Councillor Driscoll with us via Zoom. So we've got Councillor Henderson, Councillor Maltby, Councillor McClure and Councillor Cordy in the chamber. Councillor Driscoll via Zoom. Apologies, we have apology from Councillor Anea and also an apology from Councillor Gardner. They can't be with us this evening. Councillors, item 3 on the agenda, declarations of interest and conflicts of interest. Nil to report. Thank you for that, councillors. Confirmation of minutes. Item 4.1 on our agenda, meeting of council 27th of July 2021. We've got Councillor McClure. Do you move the recommendation?
Mayor, I'm pleased to move that the minutes of the meeting of Mount Alexander Shire Council held on the 27th of July 2021 be confirmed.
I have a seconder, please. Councillor Driscoll. All those in favour? Declare the matter carried. Thank you for that. Acknowledgements. Nil. We'll move on to public question time. Doesn't appear we have anyone with us in the gallery, but we will deal with the questions that have been sent to us. Thanks for our contributors. The first one is John Lewis, and it's entitled, its heading is Progressing of the Camp Reserve Master Plan. Dear Mayor Cordy and councillors, I understand that contrary to the advice provided by Acting Director Holt at the ordinary meeting of council on 18th of May 2021, a report on the Camp Reserve Master Plan will not be presented to a meeting of council to endorse or improve. Instead, council has committed to implementing the Camp Reserve Committee Preferred Master Plan endorsed by the previous council in September 2020, with 400,000 allocated in the 2021 budget for detailed planning of the pavilion and netball courts. Under this plan, the netball courts will be tucked inside the southern entrance in a confined space between the fence and internal roadways / car parking, and with significant impact on the heritage landscape in the southwest corner of the camp. As returned councillors will know, this location was contrary to recommendations of the council officers, the Heritage and Urban Design Officer, and the Heritage Impact Statement, as well as the clear preference of the community in feedback on the 2019 draft plan. In 2020, the main argument presented to council for the new netball courts to be in the southern location was so that netballers would no longer be hidden down the back. Okay, so the question from John is, as under the 2020 endorsed master plan, the northern area of the camp will be opened up by demolition of the existing poultry sheds, pavilion and change rooms, and a new major vehicular entry from the railway station car park constructed, thus placing the netball courts front and centre in the open expanse inside the northern gateway to the redeveloped sporting facilities. How do councillors justify continuing with the contentious intent to construct the new netball courts in the restricted space at the southern end of the camp? Thank you. So thank you very much, John, for your question. I'd invite Acting Director Kath Olive to respond to that question. Over to you, Kath.
Thank you very much, Mayor, councillors, and thank you, John, for your question. Council understands and acknowledges that the reserve is highly valued by the community for its historic significance, as well as the many sporting fixtures, events and celebrations that have taken place there over the years. The adopted master plan seeks to balance the many competing priorities the reserve must accommodate and consider, including its heritage values. With regards to the northern area of Camp Reserve, the demolition of the existing poultry sheds, pavilion and change rooms will allow for perimeter tree planting, the creation of a new area that can be better utilised for events, including the showing of horses, accommodate new cricket practice nets and create a defined car parking area. As you know, the Council has allocated $400,000 this financial year to progress the two major elements of the master plan, that being the pavilion and the netball courts, and also the multi-purpose court as well. These first elements will be well designed, they need to be well designed, and there will be an architectural consultancy with demonstrated experience within a heritage context appointed. So this design process will be iterative and will include consultation with the community and key stakeholders, and the feedback from these processes will be tabled with Council. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks very much for that reply, Acting Director Kath Olive. We'll move on to the next question, which is from Alice Matheson. My question relates to the redevelopment of the sporting facilities at Camp Reserve. There is community support for upgrading the sporting facilities at Camp Reserve. However, the entire reserve is protected by the Heritage Overlay 668 Camp Reserve and environs. It will be inappropriate to place netball courts at the south end, Forest Street, abutting Goldsmith Crescent. It will diminish an important heritage place. Does Council intend to ignore its own heritage report and place netball courts at the Forest Street boundary? And I'd refer that one back to you, Acting Director Kath Olive. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor and councillors, and thank you for your question, Alice, as well. Following consideration of all the information that was contained within the officer report tabled at the meeting of Council in September of last year, Council adopted the Camp Reserve Master Plan, which does place the netball courts at the southern end of the reserve. It is Council's intention to incrementally implement this master plan, and as previously mentioned, money has been allocated to progress the design of the pavilion and the courts area this financial year. Again, part of the process will be to include consultation with the community, the sporting clubs, the Community Asset Committee and other key stakeholders. And this feedback is very important to us, and it will help inform the final design. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks very much, Acting Director Kath Olive. I've got a further question from Brian Cunningham. Question 1. Is the Council considering a study for the redevelopment of the reserve based on netball courts being located at the southern end of the precinct? And question 2, has a brief for the study been developed in consultation with all user and community groups? And I'll hand that back to you, Acting Director Kath Olive. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Mayor. Thank you, councillors, and thank you for your questions, Brian. As I've indicated, council's adopted a master plan that indicates the courts are at the southern end of the reserve. Again, the first major elements to be designed will be the pavilion and the courts area. And officers are currently working on a project plan for this and will include opportunities for community and other stakeholders to provide information and feedback on the design as it evolves. Council will also be providing information and project updates via its Shape Mount Alexander webpage. And in addition, Council will be writing to all the respondents to the master plan process who provided their contact details, letting them know how they can find out about the design process and be involved. In addition, there will be a letter drop done to residents within 400 metres of the reserve, also informing them of the process that will be undertaken and how they can find out information on the progress of the design. Thank you, Mayor.
Thanks very much for your detailed reply, Acting Director Kath Olive, and I'd also thank the people that submitted questions for our meeting this evening. It's very good.
I have a question.
Yes, Councillor Henderson.
Just because this is obviously the topic of the moment, I'd just like to ask Director Kath Olive. Thank you very much, first of all, for your comprehensive response. I'm just wondering if councillors and the community see the designs with the pavilion and the netball courts placed at the southern end, and we think, well, I'm not too sure about that southern end after all. Can we have an image of what it would look like at the northern end? Would that fit into the budget you have for doing this next process?
Thanks, Councillor Henderson. It's a great question. As part of any design process, especially when we are doing meaningful consultation with the community and stakeholders, as well as yourselves, councillors, we go through an iterative process. So at the moment, the intention as per the master plan is to have the pavilion where it's located on the master plan, as well as the netball courts where it's currently located on the adopted master plan. As part of that process, we'll go through the design and we'll be providing feedback and information for you to consider. Does that answer your question, or do you need more, Councillor?
I think so. Time will tell. But so you're saying it's not set in netball stone yet?
I'm saying there's an adopted master plan, Councillor, and we've been asked to develop a design in relation to that, but there is obviously an iterative process to go through.
Thank you.
Thanks very much for your question, Councillor Henderson, and also your response, Acting Director Kath. Okay, so we'll move on, councillors. Moving on to item 7 of our agenda, petitions and letters. And we've actually have a petition received, and I'll read the petition out and then we'll deal with it. So it's addressed to Mount Alexander Shire Council. We, the undersigned residents and ratepayers of Mount Alexander Shire Council, formally request that Council follow the lead of the Australian Capital Territory Government and prohibit new facilities proposing thermal treatment of waste by means of incineration, gasification, pyrolysis, or variations of these for energy recovery, chemical transformation, volume reduction, or destruction in the Shire. And there's a list of signatories together. Councillors, can I have a motion to receive the petition and hear a response back at our October meeting of Council?
I'm happy to move that, Mr. Mayor.
So Councillor Maltby, do I have a seconder? Councillor Henderson, do you wish to speak to the motion, Councillor Maltby, or?
It's a topical subject at the moment, and the community, I'm sure, will continue to debate it until there's a planning application put forward.
Thanks very much. Any objections, councillors? being no objections, I declare the matter carried, so that response to that petition will come back to our October meeting of council. Thank you very much. Committee reports. We've got the 8.1, we've got the report from North Central Goldfields Regional Library Board. Councillors, we've got a recommendation. Do I have a motion? Councillor Henderson.
I move that council notes the North Central Goldfields Regional Library Board reports for the period April 2021 to July 2021. Normally that would be it. I would expect Councillor Anir to move those, as she is our representative on the Regional Library Board, but in her absence, I will note that we have 3 reports. First of all, draft minutes from the board meeting, and second, the CEO report. And glancing through it, it's worth noting that the CEO, who is Mark Hand, I'm part of a lobby group to state government for the reports, Mark, requesting further support on stepping through the options and legal processes that are involved in dissolving the corporation under the Local Government Act, and then presenting options for a new model of service delivery under a new legally recognised structure. So I'm reminded in reading this that in fact our library board, regional library board, is no longer allowed to exist. The Local Government Act has decreed it must transform itself, like all these libraries, to a not-for-profit organisation. I'm not quite sure of the advantage, but obviously some wisdom emanating from the halls of bureaucracy in the local government department has decided this is important, and so that's what they're going to do. And they need some money in order to be able to work out how to do it. Hopefully, it will leave us in an even better position than we are now, being served by a fantastic library, locally and regionally, under the leadership of Mr. Hands. I just also want to bring my fellow councillors' attention to our Castlemaine Library Quarterly Report, which is I received a copy of this by email. It's always interesting to read. And one of the highlights, national simultaneous story time with Councillor Rosie Anir, so our own Councillor Anir, which we took part in this. And the idea was that right across the country, the same story was being read in libraries from Tasmania to Northern Territory and all the way through our great country. I'm quite sure what happens in Western Australia, but I'm sure we get the time right somehow. And so over 30 children, including 15 preps from various primary school, listened as Rosie read to them the story with a space theme called Give Me Some Space, and she was appropriately dressed with a space themed outfit. So that went down very well. And another highlight was something that had been running for a while, one of the most popular events on the calendar, able to proceed after COVID cancellation. I see it locked in 21 teenagers in the library after dark. And fantastic partnership with the council's youth team, massive success, very high demand for more of these. I did originally think that they were locked in overnight, but no, a couple of hours and then the staff were exhausted, so they had to get home. But it sounds like a great thing to do. 21 teenagers aged 13 to 15, so they had a good time. There we go. Well done to our library for being such a lively community organisation, serving the needs in our community.
So thanks for that, Councillor Henderson. We've got a motion. We'll have a second. Councillor McClure. Any objections? Would anyone else like to speak to the motion before us? I did have a look at the report of our local library, and I did note the picture of Councillor Anir reading to the children. I know she's got young children herself, and yeah, she does a fantastic job on our regional library board. So well done, Councillor Anir. There being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 9.1.1, Community Satisfaction Survey. The purpose of this item is for councillors to review the results of the 2021 Community Satisfaction Survey. And we've had a deputation from John Scales, Managing Director of JWS Research, a council briefing on the 10th of August 2021, which detailed the results of the survey. So councillors, we've got a recommendation. Do I have a motion, please?
I'm happy to move that council notes the results of the 2021 Community Satisfaction Survey.
So moved,
You want to finish with it?
moved councillor Maltby and seconded by councillor Driscoll.
Thank you.
Okay, are there any objections, councillors? No objections. So councillor Maltby, do you want to talk to this one?
Yes, thank you. The survey data was collected in February and March of this year from 400 residents, and the consultant says that's a good average number to talk to. But they varied from all ages and all groups. I think a couple of interesting points are that it does show that the council has improved in the community's ideals in many sections, whether it be overall performance, customer service, direction, COVID-19 response, certainly, appearance of public areas, emergency management, and the list continues. So all things are moving in the right direction, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks very much for that. Councillor Driscoll, would you like to comment?
Yes, thanks, Mayor. As Councillor Maltby noted, there was a couple of top performing areas, one being our COVID response, the emergency and disaster management, and community and cultural activities all had a higher index score, which was great. But to be reasonable, there was also a decline in performance, and one of the main issues was the building and planning permits and unsealed roads. So there's room for improvement, but overall it's a much better performance. Thanks, Mayor.
Thanks, Councillor Driscoll. Other councillors wish to speak?
I should say something, Mr. Mayor. No, it was a pleasing survey. I know I love statistics or reading them anyway. There's some great intel in all of that. It's pleasing to see the improvement, particularly as Councillor Driscoll mentioned in the areas of customer service, COVID response in particular, was even better than the statewide average. Good in terms of council's response to that. Which, it's been a tough couple of years for our community, 2020 and 21, and it's good to see that this council is well up there in handling our response to that difficult situation. Appearance of public areas was also well supported with satisfaction. So those are the areas that I think affect people's everyday lives in terms of public health and everything else. So it's good to see that those areas are getting well scored. Thank you.
Thanks for that, Councillor McCullough. I'd just like to acknowledge the efforts of our CEO, Darren Fuzzard, our directors, and also our staff to continue to provide excellent customer service right across the organisation. It's great to see the results trending in the right way, and I think it has been a tough time under COVID, but our staff have coped with that well, and I look forward to a continuing trend. Big shout out to our planners. I know it's a very tough area. They've been very busy in the with the way the market's been going, and lots of tough issues in the planning area. So they're a fantastic team and doing a great job. And yeah, not everyone gets what they want from the planners, but we know they're working very hard. So thanks to the staff and thanks to all of our team. Sorry. Councillor Maltby.
I'm fine, Mr Mayor. We're-
There being no objection, I declare the matter carried. Thank you. We'll move on to delegates reports. And would you like to go first, Councillor Henderson?
Oh. Thank you, Mayor. I'll get out of my mouth, so I can. Yes, well, taking the opportunity since we have fairly light on the agenda, I thought I'd like to bring to the attention of my fellow councillors a matter I learned about last week, called strategic fire breaks. These are, according to our Department of Environment and Water and Planning webpage, strategic fire breaks are fuel-reduced areas of up to 40 metres wide, involving permanent reduction of vegetation about 10 centimetres high between established trees. There are two types. First type is landscape protection breaks. These are fire breaks or fuel breaks in the forest, carving landscapes into sections, allowing a platform for launching back-burning operations. And the second type is called asset protection breaks. These are direct protection of townships, close to houses, hospitals, prisons, etc. I hadn't heard about these particular, I don't know what a fire break is, but I heard this is something new to me. I was called to a meeting actually in the Friars Ranges Forest, just behind Railway Dam on Friday. Concerned botanists, environmentalists, naturalists had found out about DELW's plans in our local region with a map with black lines on it that struck horror into the hearts of those who value our treasured natural areas, because it seemed to show that some very valuable areas of forest vegetation was going to be carved out 40 metres on either side of the roadsides, and often the roadsides are where some of the most valuable vegetation is. There's rare species that don't even make it into state or national records because they're just local to this area. Anyway, so the landscape protection breaks, which are carving through the Friars Ranges Forest and Porcupine Ridge Forest, were of main concern of the group that gathered to meet a group of 4 DELWP and Parks Victoria people, and we learned a bit more. We heard, of course, from the group, they said there's general support for asset protection breaks. They can certainly see the need for trying to mitigate the potential for fire to impact on Castlemaine and other townships in that area. And there's certainly very enthusiastic support for eradicating weeds on our roadsides. And what comes to mind is the one of the black lines on that map, which is the Chewton and Friarstown section of the road, which is called the Chewton-Bourne Road. However, the concern for the forests, we heard from the DELWP people, in fact, it's still in the planning stage. The project is part of a statewide plan, which is funded by the government. It was supported, came out of the recommendations from the Royal Commission into Black Summer fires. But this project is less advanced in this area than at first thought, and local expert knowledge will be taken into account, which is reassuring. Land care and forest friends groups will be consulted, and I'm hoping we'll see funds and strategic planning first go into reducing the dangerous areas of fire-prone weeds around our towns and along our key roads. So, but I have raised this with the CEO, and he's promised to find out more and also keep us abreast of developments in this area, because it's likely to be of ongoing concern from a number of regions. So I think it's important that Council knows about it. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Councillor Henderson. will soon be summer again, and with the rainfall we've had, we're going to have a big build-up of fuel. So, yeah, I'm sure over the summer people will be very concerned about the fire risk. So it's good that we're doing some work on it now. And I'll hand over to the CEO. He's got a report here for us. So would you like to talk your report, Darren?
Thanks very much, Mayor, and have circulated our usual report for the month, Mayor, although it's only 3 weeks this time since the last meeting, because we have to shift the meeting last time, of course, and certainly the number of meetings that we both attended were hampered somewhat by COVID restrictions in place too, Mayor, so we've kept it to a page this time. Can I just, before I talk about an item on that list, Mayor, thank you. Can I just say, refer back to the community satisfaction survey as well. First of all, thank you to Director Knight and her team for once again organising that to happen through JWS Research, who's been doing that for us and many, many councils for a long time. Thanks very much to them. Just also wanted to note the results as well, Mayor, that we're always careful not to overstate the results too. For what Councillor Maltby alluded to, there's 400 people's views expressed in that process, and differences of opinion always arise about how representative is that. We understand that. That said, I do want to say a big thank you to the staff, and thank you, Mayor, for your comments about the staff. All of our work together contributes to this, the way that you work around the table, as well as the way the staff interact with the community every day, contributes to the results that we see in the community satisfaction survey. I just want to say thank you very much to the staff for everything that they do, and as you say, particularly in the last year, which was a phenomenally challenging year, to be able to keep delivering service, and every single staff member found a way to do that in the best possible way that they could, recognising that the rules kept changing and they had kept finding different ways to do things. So I just want to say a huge thank you to the staff again for that effort. And also, as you say, the long-term trend, Mayor, is quite the important thing. We can talk about 400 people representative or not of the view, but it's good to see that the long-term trend is headed in the right direction with those results year in, year out. So well done to everybody, and thank you. Mayor, I'll just pick out one of the meetings that I had the opportunity to have in the last 3 weeks, and that was with David Foley, who's the new president of the Harcourt Progress Association. We got to catch up and just talk about what's happening with that group, and it's pretty exciting, Mayor, and I'm sure you know this, but they've got 12 or 13 members now for that team, and it's a really good mix between some of the people who've been on the committee in the past and bolstered by some new faces and dare I say some young faces as well, Mayor. So they're feeling like they've got a really great mix of people on that group, and there's certainly lots of passion and energy for seeing Harcourt keep progressing the way that Harcourt wants it to progress. And I know, Mayor, that within the next few months we can expect them to be wanting to have a delegation to have a chat with you about what Harcourt Progress Association wants to see happen, and very much a big part of that is seeing both Plan Harcourt and Shine Harcourt come to reality through their effort, our effort, and the community's effort. So a great meeting, terrific to get to talk with David and hear such excitement and energy for the future of Harcourt, man.
Well, it's a bit of a coincidence you mentioned that that one, CEO, because I had a meeting with David Foley this afternoon, and we talked about all things Harcourt, and we've got the new playground, and we've got the female-friendly change rooms happening, and it looks like something's happening on the with the old railway station, and we've had some improvements in the streetscape, and there's a lot of new houses being built. And I said to David Foley, gee whiz, since you've been he's only been in Australia a short time, he's an Irish fellow, but I said, since you've been here, everything seems to be going right. So keep up the good work. So a big shout out to David Foley, what a champion. And yeah, it's interesting because I know with his work, he's involved with, he's an IT specialist as his background, but we're talking about a few of our neighbours in the district, and we've got some very gifted IT professionals working, and it's just amazing the people that are in our community. And some of them working for defence, some of them are working on immigration systems, some of them are working on space programs. So it's just sensational what people can do now. And David's certainly an asset to the community. So wish him well in his endeavours. I'm looking forward to eating some of the produce from that farm that we gave him a planting approval for.
I was going to say that's the same one, yeah.
So that's, he's going to feed the whole community out of that farm. So that's great. But anyway, just talking about the report, one of the things that, like I get to go to some interesting meetings, but one of the things I did last week, I attended a regional meeting of mayors in our region, but I also attended a bigger meeting, which is the mayors and CEOs. And it just reinforces with me what a fantastic group we have in the broader region, how fortunate we are, because they're a wonderful group of people, and I feel very privileged to represent Mount Alexander Shire along with our CEO at that meeting. But a fantastic group. And the other thing is there were about there's normally about 3 CEOs at that meeting that we trained. And I just sort of think, well, there's 3 plus our current CEO, and okay, we can't claim the credit for training our current CEO, but we certainly a number of at least 3 others have passed through our ranks. So a big shout out to them. But it just makes you realise what a fantastic region it is, and there's some really great things happening. So So back to our delegates reports. Any other councillors wish to talk about what they've been up to?
No, I want to pick about with you and the CEO about 400 people in a sample. I just, as a scientist, ex-maths teacher, and I'm an engineer sitting opposite it, you might know that there's a very different system. If you ask people to fill in a survey and they go, oh yes, I'll do that, and they self-select, they come along, they tell you what they think. 400 interested people is not necessarily a good sample. If, however, 400 people are randomly selected from, however, phone books, sets of numbers, because we have to use mobiles as well, and I rang up and asked, out of the blue, will you please answer a survey? That is very different. That is very different from people going, I'm going to tell you what I think, to, oh yes, all right, I'll answer some questions. Obviously, some people say no, but most people just say yes, and therefore they're randomly selected. They're a stratified random sample. So whoever's called up, you must have numbers in that 400 that represent the demographic of the region. So in this region, you're going to have more old people than young people. But you do have to have a certain percentage of each of the age limits to get your good random sample. And 400 is going to be a statistically valid result. Statistically valid, which means that you have to believe them. Just as we had to believe the result when we went to the community and said, what do you think about putting pokies in the good shed? It wasn't quite as broad as that, and there were about 30 questions going on. But that survey, which was done by a proper survey company, was surveying in Melbourne, used this method, and VCAT accepted the result as being a statistically valid result because it's done in that way. Now, I don't want to raise our wounds, but I'm just saying that when we do our annual customer satisfaction survey, we have to trust that we're getting a result that reflects what the whole community thinks. That's it.
Thanks very much for that, Councillor Henderson. We'll move on to item 11 of our agenda, which is notice of motion. So 11.1, it's a council to investigate the cost of providing tip passes and a hard rubbish collection and it's been moved by councillor Henderson. Would you like to talk to your motion there, councillor, or move the motion?
Thanks, Mayor. It's my show tonight, isn't it? So I'm moving that council receive a report outlining the estimated costs to council, providing A, tip passes to all residents on an annual basis, and B, a hard rubbish collection. I should say annual hard rubbish collection. And 2, that this report be included in a council meeting agenda within the next 6 months to allow council to consider the merits of including one or both of these items in the 2022-2023 annual budget.
And I'm happy to second the motion.
And so we've got councillor Henderson moving the motion, of course, and we've got councillor Maltby seconding the motion. Councillors, do we have any objection to this? Doesn't look like there's any objection. Would you like to speak further to it, Christine, or would you like councillor Maltby to weigh in?
Oh, I would say that this has been on the agenda, the small A agenda, for a very long time. It's never gotten this far. It's always been said, oh, well, we'll consider it when we do our next waste management strategy. But I realise that now's the time. Let's have a look at it. Let's do the work. Let's find out how much it's going to cost to go with 10,000, 50,000, 500,000. We don't know. Let's, we've got 2 things on the agenda here. Let's just find out, and then let's put the results out in a public meeting so everyone finds out. Up to you, because this is your baby, really.
Thanks for that, councillor Henderson. Councillor Maltby, would you like to talk about this?
Yeah, look, the community has been asking for it, whether it's tip passes or hard rubbish, annual hard rubbish collection. And the more you read in the paper about rubbish dumping in the bush, and the more you drive around the streets of Castlemaine in particular, where people just putting stuff on their nature strips, hoping somebody's going to take it away. The time is right now to investigate it properly and hopefully implement it. Thank you.
Thanks for that, councillor Maltby. Any other councillors wish to speak? Councillor Driscoll, what have you got to say?
Thanks, Mayor. Councillor Maltby and I have been talking about this for a while. How much will it cost? So thank you, Councillor Henderson, for bringing it to as a motion. I live near the Muckleford State Forest, and often, unfortunately, I see trailers filled with junk and they just dump. So I'd like to see the cost of this. And as a young kid, cat weaseling, which is going through the rubbish, hard rubbish, and taking home that bike or the washing machine to repair was something I used to do. So that's something else that happened. It redistributes what some people think junk is other people's treasure. So I think it's a good idea. Thank you.
Thanks for that, councillor Driscoll. There being no objections, I declare the matter carried. Thank you very much. Urgent special business is nil. Confidential items is nil. That brings us to the meeting close. CEO, do you have anything else for us? Declare the meeting closed at 7:14 p.m. Thank you very much, and thank you for everyone that watched us on YouTube. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, director. Thank you, CEO, and thank you, governments.